Hey you Hillmaniacs, it's Hillmanator, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different, because my plan today is to show you the project that I've been working on, specifically my film project. Now we've just had the presentations today for this project, so I'm now allowed to show you. It's the video that I was working on last week, and those of you who watched my vlog from last week might know that this video was a nightmare to produce, but we'll get into that later. So to start with, I just want to give you a brief outline of what the project actually was, and then I'm going to show you the film. What we had to do for this project was to recreate one of the ending scenes of Alfred Hitchcock's brilliant movie, Psycho. Specifically, the scene I'm talking about is the scene where Lila discovers Norma Bates' body, is chased down by a Norman Bates dressed as his mother, and who is only stopped from killing Lila due to the intervention of Sam Loomis. For those of you who haven't seen the original film, don't watch this clip, go and watch the original, it's far better. For those of you who have, I'm sorry I'm putting you through this agony. Now, we were allowed to reinterpret it in any way we liked, as long as it was 2 minutes and stuck to the basic narrative structure. So, thusly, I present to you Psycho.
Come on. Here goes. Marion? Marion? Oh! You okay? Hello? Hello? What a mess.
I hope you've enjoyed that mess. I just tried to pull up the presentation so that I could read to you the notes that I actually had about it, but apparently my laptop doesn't want to play. So guess I'm just gonna have to wing it and try and convey to you the same information that I conveyed earlier today. As some of you may know, this is my first time directing a short film. I've done little bits as extras in them before, and I've directed theatrical performances, but never for a short film, so it's been a learning curve, certainly. First off, what went wrong? Well, to start with, one of our group members just never showed up. Oh no, I take that back. He showed up precisely once and said, "Don't know," and that was all he said throughout that entire meeting. So he was a useful group member. Then we had problems with scheduling. Several of our actors couldn't be available for the days that we needed them, so we eventually had to try and rework it. And we also had the same problem again when we tried to do reshoots towards the end, because as you may have realised, that last shot, right towards the end when Norman picks up the camera, it's out of focus. Now, the reason we left that in as it was twofold. First off, I managed to fix it a little bit in post, so it wasn't as bad. And second off, Norman was just unavailable to do reshoots, as was Lila. So we were basically stuffed, and we had to do it as we did. Then there's this whole exporting fiasco. If you've watched my last video, then you know that it took me, I think, 29 attempts to export this one film. What you wouldn't know is that we were then told by the university that even though it is copyright-free music, we have to credit the source. So I then had to go back and edit the film to put in the original source of the music, and then try and export it again. That was fun. With all of that, what went right? Well, first off, I was placed with a generally pretty amazing team. None of us really had any clue what we were getting into. We hadn't done this before, but everyone dived right in. It was great. We all put in 100% effort. Everyone who, when we asked someone to be there, they were generally there. And if they weren't, they told us why beforehand. Next up, there was one of our guys who was amazingly on the ball during pre-production. He organised a whole bunch of stuff for us, and he was great at it, as was our other guy in pre-production, who organised virtually everything that the first guy didn't. So that I essentially didn't have to worry during pre-production. It was pretty nice. Pre-production was good for me. Then on the shooting days, we had a lot of fun. My personal favourite anecdote from the shooting days was when we were shooting in the woods. And it was the first thing that we had shot, and I had just got Lila. And Lila wasn't a trained actress per se. She didn't know exactly what she was doing, which is perfectly fine, like, as long as you have someone who does know what they're doing. And so me and her were having a discussion, and she was telling me that she didn't know how to act scared enough. And so what I did was I waited about 30 seconds until she had forgotten what we had discussed, and then I went, "Bah!" And that seemed to sort it out. She seemed to understand from then on what we were hoping to capture. Just to establish, she was fine, nothing happened that was bad, like, she understood that it was just a acting technique. Actually feeling scared can, you know, help you understand how to act scared. Surprising, that one, isn't it? I mean, who would have figured? There were a number of creative decisions in this which we didn't really want to take, but were necessary. For example, personally, I didn't even want to do found footage to start with. I was more in the process of wanting to do a kind of psychological, analytical look at what really goes on inside Bates' mind. But through talking through with my group and understanding a better what everyone had as ideas, we all agreed quite quickly that we wanted it to be kind of a post-classical way of looking at Hollywood, and particularly horror movies nowadays. So you've got things like Blair Witch Project, you've got Paranormal Activity, Cloverfield and Chronicle were all big inspirations on us, as was Crime Watch, because that last bit at the end was supposed to make it kind of like a Crime Watchy sort of thing, if you understand what I'm saying. As I said earlier, that last shot of Norman at the very end was out of focus, and that was largely because we decided to use red light. And the red light was amazing for atmosphere. It really, really sold it in terms of implying the violence, which is something that we really wanted to do. We didn't want to directly show anything. We even didn't want to show Norman too much until the end. We wanted to more imply the menace. Which is also why we cut between every hit. I did consider mucking around with bone cracking sounds in that section, but it didn't work because it took away something. But anyway, the red light, it was very useful to start with, but that final shot, I love that shot now. At the start of this process, I bloomin' hated that shot. Me and the other editor did a lot of work in post-production trying to get it to actually look good, and it took ages, but I feel like we got it to a reasonable standard. In fact, I feel like we can say that about a lot of things. There were a lot of issues on the day that were very difficult and we couldn't necessarily fix in camera because none of us had the experience, and so it ended up with me and the other editor trying to fix most of the issues in post, which was perfectly fine. We managed to do it and it worked out well. For example, one issue that we had was in the shot where Lila is going down the stairs with the camera pointed towards her, she was wearing glasses for about 5 of the takes, but those takes were the only ones with a decent reveal of Norma's face when she tilts her head back. So, what did we do? Well, we actually cut 3 different takes together to create one take. We got the one clip of Lila coming down the stairs without the glasses, and when we got to the door, we cut to another clip where she was wearing the glasses, didn't point the camera at her, and then we used that clip section of her showing Norma's body, and then as she puts her hand over the camera, we then transitioned into another shot where she had also put her hand over the camera but she didn't wear the glasses, and we used that one as the final shot. Personally, I loved working on this project. I felt it was a relatively decent challenge. We struggled with a lot of things, but I feel like it really improved our filmmaking craft overall, and I would love to do it again. So, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope that you got some level of creeped out or something during the film, and that you actually enjoyed the film above all. And if you have time, why not try it yourself? I mean, you've got a decent camera in your pocket, and you don't necessarily have to do it in the same way I did. For example, other groups did it as a comedy style, they did it as a romance trailer. There was one group which I starred as Norman in, which did it as a spaghetti western. I even heard that one of the other groups wanted to do it as a musical. I'm not sure whether they actually did, because I didn't get to see all of the films, but it's quite possible that they did, which would have been really interesting. So I'm going to leave the original clip from the film down in the description, and if you want to, then feel free to try and make your own version and send it to me down there, and I will see it, and hopefully it'll be great. I mean, it's a relatively easy clip to adapt. You can adapt it in any way you imagine. Anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this video in which I have rambled on about all of the errors that I made as a director, and I hope that you've gained some appreciation for the life of a film student at university, even though I'm not a film student. Okay, thanks for watching all. I shall catch you next time.